Welcome to the Health Angle Podcast with Dr. Mike Headlee and Dr. Gordon Fimreite, where we'll be exploring different angles of health to achieve the best version of yourself. Now here's your hosts, Dr. Mike and Dr. Gordon.
Welcome everyone. I am Dr. Mike Headlee. With me is Dr. Gordon Fimreite. Welcome, Dr. Gordy.
Hey, Dr. Mike, and welcome everybody to the Health Angle Podcast. Today's episode, Dr. Mike, this is probably really important for just about every segment of the population, whether you're old or young, and whether you're female or male, this is applicable. So what we're going to go over today is preventing age-related muscle loss. So today's episode, really exciting topic, and a lot of people, if they keep tuned into our program here today, they're going to be surprised some of the things that they might be doing, they don't realize they are, that will inhibit the ability to grow muscles, therefore a better metabolism, all the other benefits that we'll discuss. So welcome to this episode of the Health Angle Podcast.
Yeah, Gordy, I'm over 50 now, and it's a big deal from any age to be strong in our bones, in our musculoskeletal system, and our spine. And I have a feeling I'm going to be talking about one specific technology, and you're going to be talking about a lot of lifestyle habits. So I think we'll blend in really, really, really good. But in practice, over 30 years, when I see people over 50, that's one of their big concerns. One is balance, but two is they feel like they're getting weaker. Their mind says I can still work hard, and I still want to work hard and cut wood and lift weights and push the snowmobiles off the trailer and lift the boats and, do all the physical stuff. However, their body is not responding what their mind thinks it should be able to do. Is that anything that you experience in practice talking to?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt people feel like they're getting weaker, especially as my older sector, and they might not have the same strength. But you know what? Some of the strategies we're going to talk about, I think anybody listening to this is going to be pretty optimistic because there's some subtle things that people can do.
Yeah, we don't have to just to play the old age card, say I'm getting older, I'm getting weaker. Yeah, my body's changed this and that. If you do nothing, yes, you will get old and weak fast. That's the lesson, isn't it? If you do nothing, you should feel weak. You should feel stiff. You should feel not so good if you do nothing. But if you do the stuff that I really think Gordy's going to lay out, you have no worries as you age.
So, Mike, I'm going to dive into my first one because I think it's going to be maybe different than what you're going to talk about, but we'll see. We don't share our notes, which makes this podcast even funner because you'll bring stuff to the table, Mike, where I'm like, wow, I didn't know that, and I might do the same. And together we have a great, great mix. So first thing I want to talk about is, well, sure, the obvious, muscle strength, but I'm not going to get there yet. I want to talk about the wiring to the muscle. People don't realize this, but we have so many different muscles in our body, and all of them need a wiring system, meaning that it needs a neurological conductive system. And if you're not active and you're not doing the right things, the neurological component to these muscles can degrade with time. So there's things that you and I and everybody can do to be proactive so we don't lose the wiring system that actually gets to the muscle. So what are these things? Well, here's some key exercises, and it's all about coordination and balancing type of exercises. And I remember, Mike, seeing this video, and this guy must have been in his mid-70s, and he wasn't a big bulky guy, but if you looked at him, you'd go, that guy's in great shape. He's got a good tone, good muscle. You can see his abs. But what he had is an obstacle course in his backyard. So he's like balancing through different, like a log would be, he'd have to balance on the log, and then he'd do quick motions and quick sprints, and he'd do all these agility type of balancing and coordination type of exercises. So the key to get that wiring system to your muscles so it doesn't degrade and degenerate is exercises that include quick movements, balancing drills, sprints, footwork and agility, jumps or hop, kind of like plyometrics, and anything that challenges your coordination and balance. So that's my first one, Mike. So back to you.
Yeah, is that guy trying out for the American Ninja Warrior program or what?
He should. That's a good way to build muscle.
And I've
Exactly.
seen families with their kids in having the obstacles in the back. I think that's great playground equipment. And maybe if you think about it, also most schools have these playgrounds. What if the parents and the kids would go there and do on the monkey bars, and then run in circles around different things and push on swings and all that other play basketball, all that stuff. That's a already set up obstacle course if you don't want to make your own.
And when you saw that guy do this in the video, it actually looked fun. And he was like coming up with different ideas of how he could incorporate this balance and agility into his backyard. It says it was quite extensive, but it looked like a lot of fun incorporating that.
That's
So,
really
Dr. Mike,
that's really neat.
a year from now, we're going to do a video in your backyard, and I want to see your agility and balance exercise program.
We already did one on our garden, and so we still have a lot of trees down in the very backwoods. So maybe when I get in better shape this winter, I'll be climbing over the trees and jumping over obstacles and stuff. So I'll keep that in mind and do some training for that because I have the perfect setup for that already. My number one thing I'm going to talk to about is KATSU, KAATSU. It's known as blood flow restriction training. Okay, it obstructs blood flow to your extremities while you exercise. And so it's a Japanese invention. There's three main types. You could get a Velcro strap to put around your arm and your leg. That's good. I call this better. It's called a B Strong band, where you put it over your giant biceps, like mine, and you have to measure your arms to get the right band, and then you get a blood pressure cuff sphygmomanometer, and then you just plug it in, and then you pump it up based on your arm size. And so once you pump it up to the right pressure, you literally don't have to do anything. However, you should by just moving and walking, lifting weights, using exercise bands. And so it's called blood flow restriction. So this is better than just putting a Velcro strap over your arm. What's even best, this KATSU band, these are like $100. KATSU bands are like $1,200 to $1,400 because they hook up to a thing you hook on your waist. And so then they compress for 30 seconds and then relax for 5 seconds and build up more intensity. And so in Japan, I'll talk more about the science behind this, but for instance, if in Japan, if someone has a sedentary desk job, they put this on their arms and their legs, and so they're contracting and relaxing throughout the day, and they keep their muscle density without really exercising. And so they can wear it to and from work to walk or to garden and to do whatever. But most elderly people wear it and they don't go to the gym. And Dr. Mercola, who I followed for 20 plus years, he thinks it's the greatest innovation in exercise training in the last century because it's a simple way. As people get over 50, 60 plus, a lot of people don't like to lift heavy weights, even though resistance and strength training and weights are important. Well, this is a way that you can stress the muscle and the blood flow and do lighter weights, household activities, gardening, mowing the grass, and resistant band exercises. And then the recovery is so fast and you don't get really sore, but you get really strong muscles. And I use them on my exercise bike, my Schwinn Aerodyne, where I'm using my arms and my legs. And I really like it because I feel like my muscles stay strong and dense and toned. And I just don't lift heavy weights because of my hips and my back and my shoulders. And I really like them, Dr. Gordy.
It's interesting, Mike, because I've seen massage therapists that are in tune to health and wellness, and they actually do techniques where they'll cut off for just a small period of time the brachial artery, and then they'll do the same thing, a technique on the femoral artery. So it's kind of an interesting technique, and it sounds like it coincides, or it's a similar type of strategy, except that obviously what they're doing in Japan is more of a constant version of that. Phenomenal.
So, besides from drastically improving the muscle tone and preventing sarcopenia, the age-related muscle loss, these bands is a wonderful tool for post-rehab recovery, because most people know if you have a cast on your arm or your leg, just 6 weeks into it, you have muscle loss and noticeably, visibly in your arm or leg, etc. And so you can regain physical function really, really fast. It's just another form of stress. Like lifting weights is a stress, running is a stress on the body. This is just stressing the circulatory system and muscles, but in a healthy scientific way. So one of the biggest takeaways, Dr. Gordy, is why I like it, is it improves your metabolic flexibility. So it increases the number of glucose transporters that absorb blood sugar in our cell membranes. And statistically, many people, 80+%, they say, up to 90% are metabolically unflexible, meaning their diets are so overloaded with omega-6 and sugars and processed foods that they're just, insulin is out of control, and they're just inflamed, and stuff we talk about all the time is diet and lifestyle and blood sugar and nutrition and healthy smoothies to keep our metabolism and metabolic flexibility there. And so as a result of you just using these bands, our insulin levels won't go up, and you don't develop insulin resistance, which basically lowers the risk for virtually every chronic degenerative disease. Because if you have insulin resistance and bad metabolic flexibility, the heart disease, the diabetes, the cancers, the Alzheimer's, dementia, it just goes through the roof. And so that's another thing. Just by being sedentary and putting these bands on that pump up, or putting these bands on when you're walking or cross-country skiing, or when I go snowshoeing and go out and use the snowblower tonight on my driveway for the third time in a week, I'll get a good workout. And so about 60 years ago in Japan, it was invented, and you don't I ask a lot of people and trainers and I saw a physical therapist today, but most people don't know about that. And it's just another technology to create intermittent hypoxia, and it provides a whole host of hormonal responses and benefits in metabolism for our cells, so they're just more in tune to using the natural glucose in our blood sugar for energy and converting that to lean muscles. So I wish I had the Cadillac version, the Katsu bands, but I have this Be Strong bands that people can get on Amazon, and they're kind of fun to use, because I feel like just my Schwinn Aerodyne bike gives me an extra workout just for my muscles if I don't want to do any resistance training after that.
So the next one I want to get into the obvious. When people think of decline of muscle, they think of, well, I need to do more muscle training. So I think this is an obvious one, but we need to talk about it briefly here. So most adults will lose between 3 and 8% of muscle mass every 10 years after the age of 30. And of course, after the age of 60, this accelerates. So muscle, when you have tension and stress put on the muscle, as in resistance training or muscle building type of activities, that load will cause your muscles to build. So we need to really build those muscles through those types of exercises. So we're not necessarily getting weaker with age. We're just not stimulating those muscles to keep up with our aging process, which is really necessary. But we have so many muscles of the body, and we need to train as many muscles in our bodies as possible. And if you're looking for a faster metabolism, lifting weights, weight-resistant exercises are essential. The more muscles that you can engage in your body, the more you're going to have as far as a faster metabolism. So the other thing too about muscles is they're like a sponge of sugar. So after you eat these meals with a lot of glucose, for example, your muscles tissues will really store up to 80% of post-meal glucose. This is great because you don't want the glucose in your bloodstream, because if that happens persistently, that will lead to diabetes. So if you have sugar storage in your muscles, that would be key. And the key to that is you need more muscle mass on your body, which is essential. So the next thing I want to talk about is for many adults, when you consume protein, it's not how much protein you have, it's when you consume it. And I think this is something that a lot of people ignore because they think, okay, I need this many grams of protein, and they might sit all in one meal and eat it all. And meanwhile, you're supposed to distribute that throughout the day to make the most of your body and get the most out of that protein for muscle building. So there's older adults have anabolic resistance, meaning that they need a higher quality protein dose between 25 grams up to 40 grams per meal. In other words, every meal you need 25 to 40 grams to maximally trigger this ideal of muscle protein synthesis or muscle building. And a study in the Journal of Nutrition found that 30 grams of high quality protein per meal maximally stimulates muscle synthesis or muscle growth. If it's under 30 grams of protein per meal, you might not be getting enough protein. So obviously, the best ways to get protein is lean meats like chicken, turkey, etc., fish and seafood, eggs, products like tofu or tempeh, and then you got quinoa, you got buckwheat, chia seeds, hemp seeds, pumpkin seeds. These are all good protein. And then you could combine it. You can have beans with rice, lentils, whole grains, and nuts and seeds, and then a high quality protein powder. So, Mike, we talk about the Yuka app. Find a protein source like a whey protein. Use the Yuka app and it'll rank it and tell you whether it's a good source or not. So any comments to these strategies?
Yeah, it's important because even if you're going to the gym with a trainer or you're using some resistance type equipment, you got to feel the muscle cells that feel the body really well. And that's just really a great reminder. It's not just all about exercise, it's about fueling the muscle in the body. Sarcopenia is a progressive decline in muscle mass as we age. It's primarily due to the decrease in blood flow supply to muscle stem cells, which are called satellite cells. So when our satellite cells don't get the nourishment they require, it becomes very difficult to build muscle. So once you're over 50 years of age, this is always working against us, even if you're doing hardcore resistance training. And so the blood flow restriction solves that problem by increasing the blood supply to your satellite stem cells, which provides the necessary metabolic support needed to increase muscle protein synthesis and grow our muscles. And that's another reason why I really, really, really like that, because it just optimizes our circulation, optimizes our stem cells, our muscle density. And as people age, they might become more sedentary and affecting circulation. And with this too, I can do that when I'm building my obstacle course in my backyard by doing high intense workout and balance workout and all those other things, but just not to the degree of deadlifting and squatting and power cleans like I used to do in high school and college football. I just don't want to do that and risk hurting my back and my shoulders and everything like that. But I still want to work out and be physically active, just not going to do it at the highest intensity and the highest weights that I used to.
The next thing I want to talk about, Mike, is sleep. People think, well, what does sleep have to do with muscle building? Well, your natural growth hormone spikes at nighttime. Most daily growth hormone release happens during the deep stages of sleep. So poor sleep disrupts muscle repair, and it actually elevates muscle wasting hormones like cortisone, which can negatively impact muscle growth. So a good night's sleep consistently is so important. It's really essential for the natural nightly anabolic cycles. So that really makes a big difference. So no amount of hard training or muscle building workouts in the gym can compensate for chronically poor sleep. So that's something I think a lot of people they might be missing that component. We talked about gut health, Dr. Mike, in another podcast, which I recommend everybody check out. But your gut microbiome has such an influence on muscle maintenance. Studies have shown that certain gut bacteria improve the amino acid absorption, in other words, energy production, and it reduces inflammation. So this really can influence your muscle building. So muscle loss just isn't in your arms, your legs. Sometimes it's in your gut with, the inability to absorb some of those nutrients that you're trying to eat. So the solution to good health, and we talked about this, again, go to our podcast on microbiome for your gut health. So solutions can be eat fiber-rich foods, fruits, vegetables, beans, whole grains, get away from junk foods, processed foods, and soft drinks. And then include a probiotic as a supplement, and also onions, garlic, leeks, asparagus, and that list goes on. Mike, anything else to add to those two subjects?
Yeah, it's very important. Very important. I don't want to gloss over that. A lot of people gauge their workouts based on how they sleep, if they use a sleep tracker or whatever. But if you had a restless night's sleep and you're just dog tired, but you want to get your workout in, maybe you need to scale it down and do some resistance training or walking instead of running, or use some blood flow restriction type stuff and use lighter weights instead of just going hardcore in the gym because you didn't get much sleep. So you can still work out, but then maybe recover by optimizing your sleep that night after you got that lighter workout in. I know a lot of people really gauge that and don't want to overstress their body if they didn't sleep good. So very good advice on microbiome and sleep hygiene is critical.
Yeah, I think these long distance runners, they have a lot of cortisone. That's a lot of stress in your body doing a marathon. So they always say burst training or surge training, small sprints or small runs for a small period of time, and don't do it as long. So in other words, if someone's just running and jogging it out for half hour, you'd get more out of your workout if you did burst or surge for a certain period of time over 15 minutes instead of a half hour. So just surge for 2 or 3 minutes or a minute or a half minute, and then walk or jog slowly, and then surge or burst it. So that's a good.
Yeah. So the last thing I have is we can stop sarcopenia, the progressive decline of muscle mass as we age, but we have to exercise. And we have to have a healthy lifestyle. Just like this blood flow restriction, good is to put a strap around your arm. Better is using some scientific B-strong bands. And then the Cadillac best version is the Katsu bands, Kaatsu. And also good is just moving the body, walking around, doing housework, shoveling the driveway. That's really, really good. What's a little better is using body weight activities, doing squats and lunges and push-ups and sit-ups and planks. What's the best? Well, some weights or resistance and really stressing the muscles a little bit more is ideal. But the number one thing is move. And if you really aren't going to get into the workouts, maybe you need to get some bands just to stress the blood flow and stress the muscles, because you don't want to grab the bands and the tubing and the light weights and do some push-ups or whatever. But bottom line is we have to move our body. Otherwise, we are going to get weaker as we age.
Mm-hmm. Good points, Mike. I have 2 points, and I'll throw it back to you for the last words. So micro movements throughout the day are better than one big workout. So long periods of inactivity switches off enzymes called lipoprotein lipase, and that reduces fat and nutrient uptake. And then the net result of that is muscle protein breakdown that exceeds the synthesis or the building up, even in people who exercise. So in other words, you can't undo hours of sitting with one workout. Your hormones just don't work that way. Your muscles need a little burst throughout the day. And have you ever noticed, Dr. Mike, there's people who are fidgety and they seem to be in pretty good shape? Well, maybe that fidgeting isn't such a bad thing because you get those micro movements throughout the day and that exerts a little bit. And maybe you want to call it your muscle snack by doing those fidgety thing. But I would say find something you can do to get that muscle exertion throughout the day, those small things you can do to just stimulate it somehow, some way. And the next one, Mike, you had mentioned a couple podcasts ago about grip strength. So I'll just make a quick comment and I'll throw it back to you. Grip strength predicts longevity and it's trainable at any age. In fact, after you had mentioned it in our prior podcast, Mike, I decided, you know what? Dr. Mike, you stimulated me. I'm gonna start doing that. So now when I go to the gym, I'll find a bar and I'll hang on it for both grip strength and for shoulder mobility, as well as a little distraction for the rest of the spine and the body. But I'm trying to increase it each time, and I think it's brilliant. But from the scientific angle, grip strength is a strong predictor of all-cause mortality because it reflects overall full-body strength. So train that grip strength. I think it's critically important. So back to you, Dr. Mike.
You remember in high school, they had those black-handled spring devices you would squeeze, and
Yes.
you'd see some guys walking around high school, or you just see you get at home watching TV or whatever, watching us. And people would just do that all the time. And now they have fancier ones or some different balls to squeeze and stress balls or whatever. But it used to be a bigger thing back in the day. And for grip strength, now I don't know why it's not that popular.
I remember when I was a kid that we used to have this round, kind of like a stick, and you'd have a string through it, and it would be attached to weights. And you just roll the brick up, and then you'd roll the brick down. I've not seen that exercise in a gym since, I just haven't seen it. But as a kid, you'd get a little shoulder workout, but you'd get the grip string because you're rolling that string up to get the brick, and then you're rolling it down. It's a great exercise.
Yeah, and the forearms. I've seen it at our high school from everything from baseball players so they can hit, gymnasts, basketball players, tennis players, whatever. It was a big thing back in the day, and I don't know. I still think maybe CrossFit gyms do it. I don't know, but I still think it's a great exercise.
Yeah. Mike, I want to cover one more thing because I remember in a prior podcast too, you're in northern Minnesota, so you get access to kind of a cold plunge dives and stuff like that. But my last point about muscle, kind of a building type of activity, cold exposure and heat exposure can help maintain muscle. What do I mean by that? Heat can increase heat shock proteins that support muscle repair. Cold exposure may reduce inflammation and improve mitochondrial function. So the solution, our body is designed to handle hot and cold, but in our modern lifestyle, we keep things kind of constant in a comfy, basically a comfy temperature range. And that's not always the best thing. Our body needs those extreme colds and heat, and it might just be a really important training signal so we get that hot and cold, and it might very well be something that could be incorporated to help you with your muscle strategy building. So what do you think of that, Dr. Mike?
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. Just like these blood flow restriction bands strengthen our vascular systems and vascular tissue. Well, when you're in a sauna, you get vasodilation, and you're out. I'm going to be out in the cold on Saturday as -5 is going to be the high. So I'm going to get some vasoconstriction. And so I will get both hot and cold because I'll start out in my sauna in the morning, and then I'll be out in the cold doing something on Saturday that I'll get exposure to both. But I like both, and I like it both because then my range of adaptability and my comfort zone is much larger, so that I don't have to wilt at 95 degrees at a parade at the 4th of July, and I'll go snow blow the driveway, and I won't just like freeze because I'll dress for it, but I just embrace the cold after a while. So I think both are really good, and explore cold showers and cold baths, and don't be afraid to sweat too. So yeah, I think the blood flow restriction, I think it could really help a lot of people out that aren't going to the gym and throwing big weights around and doing heavy stuff. They could just be doing normal household stuff. And mowing the grass and walking the dog and doing some 1 or 5 pound weights and still get some really healthy benefits, Dr. Gordy. So
Yeah, no doubt. Oh, one quick point.
yeah,
We always talk about this, Dr. Mike. Consistency is more important than intensity. And you don't have to get in there and just pound the heaviest weights, but it's just that consistently getting some resistance, getting some muscle work or band work or some other resistance, critical, really a key.
Yeah, you go to the gyms more than me, and when you see these people, you can tell they've been going a long time. They're 70, 80, 90, whatever they are. They're fit, they're healthy. I had a lady come in today, and she's kind of bummed out that she does 5Ks, and we have a marathon every summer in our town, and they have 5 and 10Ks and half marathons. And she's bummed out that they don't have an 80 and above category, because now that she's 79, they have a 60 to 70 age group. So she's 79, and the 61-year-olds are they're the 60 and 61-year-olds are in the 60 to 70 category with her. And so they're beating her. She used to get first or second place in her age group. And so she goes, I can't compete with the 61-year-olds. I'm 79. And so she's hoping that they can do an 80 plus category, but there's not that many people doing 5Ks at 80 plus, but she is, and she's fit and healthy and consistent. Not intensity, she's not running, but she speed walks and she does interval walking and she's consistent. So that's a really, really good example. Hope I'm as active in doing 5Ks when I'm 79 too.
Yeah. I love seeing the older people population of the gym. It's so fun to see. And you see celebrities that work out into their older years and you look at their bodies and like, wow, that guy's in great shape for his 70s or 80s. Even my wife just started working out with me regularly in the gym for the last 6 months. She's not a big weightlifter and she never has, not really exposed to it, but she's doing some and consistently. And she's starting to show some improvements in her physique. And what that does is it just motivates her even more. So you get to all these benefits. You feel more confident. You feel good. Your body's starting to become more toned. Your metabolism gets better and all the other benefits health-wise. So, and it's not like we're going to the gym and killing ourselves. We're just being consistent about it. So that's our key.
Yeah, I just think it increases your energy, confidence. Then the sleep part, you want to go to sleep to recover and rest after that good full day of work and workout. It's just like, wow, now I'm getting better sleep because I'm tired. Quality sleep to recharge, and now we can go do it again the next day. So just a good win-win for everything.
Yeah.
I'd like to finish up by asking our viewers and listeners what's your number one takeaway that you can talk to a coworker tomorrow about their muscle and strength program, even if they're in their 20s and 30s and 40s and they aren't hitting the 50 plus age group, where you have to really be conscious about it. The last thing is, what's your number one action step that you can take today? What are you going to do to prevent muscle loss and build muscle strength by getting stronger and taking some action today? So what are you going to do? Write in the comments. I'm kind of curious what inspires you. Do you want to do some 7-minute high-intensity interval training? Or are you going to just go for walks with some blood flow restrictions? You're going to get a trainer? You're going to go work out in the gym like Dr. Gordy does and his wife? Or what's your action step? There's a lot of things. Improve your microbiome, improve your sleep, improve your protein throughout the day. A lot of take homes from this podcast. So let us know in the comments what your number one action step is.
Great. Thank you, Mike. And thank you for everybody for listening today. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast, like our content, and then hit that notification bell so you get those announcements when our next podcast is. So every week we pick a new subject, and we're going to do that next week. So until then.
Thank you for joining us on the Health Angle Podcast. Please subscribe to our channel and catch us for our next episode.